Welcome guys to another tutorial. Now on this tutorial I am going to be doing a custom debugger for ourselves because, well, the console log and stuff like that is kind of expensive, and I don't really like it because it's so expensive. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good for some things, but like those really spammy messages and things like that we need to know at times, they're just too much sometimes for the system, and then it just, like, I don't know, sometimes I feel that there's a better way. And two, when we go out to a build, we can't see those messages when it's in the build itself because we don't have any way. And not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel that we do need some type of logging thing for maybe when we get outside of the editor, or in the editor. So what I came up with was an onGUI method. Now onGUI methods are done in our actual, it's not required to have a canvas or event system or anything like that. So we can actually go through and basically pretty much just go and select all these, and we can actually just go bloop, and delete. The only script that's required is this one, so that we can instantiate it into the world. So we got something visualized. Okay, and pretty much the way it sits now, we can sit here and I'm pretty sure it showed it. Yep. See these messages right here? This is my logging file here. Okay, this is my logger. It will pop up a message right here, and then I've got a scroll thing here too, so it can go infinitely, okay, as long as I want, okay, and it'll pop up messages, and I can scroll and see which ones are there. No big deal whatsoever, okay. So this scroll position, we don't actually even need that. But let's take a look at the code and see what we can do in the code wise, because that is probably what you're wondering anyway. So in the code, we are going to look at scroll recs and stuff, but first we're going to fix this. Hide in inspector. This will hide my public field from the inspector where I don't need to have it. So onGUI is a mono behavior, so it actually has to be a mono script that attached to its game object. No big thing right there. Pretty basic stuff. And this is an intermediate. It's like a code base one. If you like coding the screen points and manipulating the pixels and the screen and things like that, and just do it code way instead of the 4.6 and up Unity way, the way we've been doing it with panels and things like that. Well, this is how you would do it. You would search up onGUI, and then you'd come up with all these labels and things like that. Which, I mean, granted, it's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. But I want something a little bit more visual. But for this, I felt that it was pretty okay. So I've got this begin area, which I've set pixels for, length, width, height, things like that. And then I've got the scroll position equals on the GUI layout begin scroll view, and I put in the scroll position. That way, wherever the scroll position that I'm currently on, that's the point. It's just the way that you do it. It requires a vector too. And then I'm doing a for each loop, which goes into our warlogger.logs. And every item that's in the warlogger logs, yeah, try to say that really quickly. It displays this string, okay? We have to end the scroll view by GUI layout dot end scroll view, and then I end the area because I defined the area of the screen for this specific thing. Now we have our file stream, okay, and our serializer. And we have this method on destroy, which is another mono behavior thing. This will run anytime this game object, I want to say deserializes, but it's kind of confusing. Anytime it's actually destroyed. So anytime I come out of play mode, this will write every string in the log to my file, which I call it datalog.text. That way I can just double click it and bam. Now this info is just a string, a list of strings. That's it. I wanted a fresh copy. That way every single time I just boom. And then slap all my information into it from the logs. Okay, and then tell the serializer to do its job and then close. Very simple. It's very easy. We don't need anything else like a load log or anything like that. We don't need it because we can just double click and boom, there it is. You just look for this file in the stream and assets and you're good. Now we can put it in a directory of some type and things like that. But I mean, datalog.text, I mean, it's pretty easy to find. It's just in the main stream and assets. So now we want to look at the chunk of the real important thing about this, which is very easily. It's a public static class, and this is a static list, and then a static method of adding a string. That's it. And then the log adds it. So you call this method and add a string to it. What this means, well, it's just like any other method. So you're going to go into here or there or wherever your little heart desires. Let's look. Oh, here's a good one. Reloading call. Instead of putting debug.log, we put warlogger dot add. Well, that's just lovely. We're going to have a lightning storm, it sounds like. So instead of debug.log, we'll put this war and then just add a string. Bam. Very easy. Very efficient when it comes to saying, hey, we need this to be done, right? And that's one of the things about it. I mean, walking. We got another debug.log in here. Nope. Sniping. Ah, see, I've already replaced it. Now, this is just a regular script. It won't get stripped out or nothing like that. Which, you know, I mean, come on, it's fine. You know, if you really wanted to strip out all the log information and stuff, it would be very easy to do so. Okay? So when you go out to build or whatever, and you don't want this script to exist, what you would do, since you don't want this to exist in your project and, do the whole compile thing and all that stuff, you go where your war logger is, throw it into the editor folder, okay? And what this will do is it will compile, and it doesn't like it. So it'll start giving you all these error messages because it doesn't exist the way it's supposed to. Okay? So it doesn't exist. So now, instead of, just going through, you can sit there and keep crossing them out. Keep crossing them out until you get rid of everything that you need. Because even if I fix this error message and then go save, which all I did was just cross one out. Well, guess what? It went into another script, and then another script, and another script, and another script. And it'll just keep giving you these error logs because the class doesn't exist. Okay? Which, is fine. That's its job to do. But if you want the logger to exist again, all you do is take it out of the editor folder and you just put it in, a folder again. And bam, your logger works again. It exists and everything works again. Alright? But that's all you have to do to get rid of the logging information. Okay? Very simple, very minimalistic. Now, for another thing that I have is in my project, I went and changed a few things to accommodate some very nice changes. Now, this change requires a few things, but in our advanced player, we actually are making a class for one specific function. Okay? Now, this little label field right here, this is part of a editor script. Okay? And I put this here as idle 1, walking, blah blah blah, and keep going. Okay, it tells me my idle position and my walking and this, because we are going to get rid of the enums that are in these classes. This right here, we're going to get rid of enums altogether, so that way when I make a class in our classes right here, actually, I can go ahead and do that now. Our advanced player object, and we need player base. Okay, go to the declaration, and we are going to do a public int state go. And what this will do is give me an integer to go to. Okay? Alright. Now we should get an integer thingy. Okay, here's the state go. Now, what I'm thinking about is call this current state, and then, when we leave, we are going to be able to go, hey, what state do I want to? Which this is a state right here. This is a state, this is a state, this is a state. You know, each one of these is going to be a state. So from my, let's say, idle positioning, what do we want to go to? Well, we want to go to number 1. From our walking thing, we want to go to maybe running, which will be 2. Okay? I want a value that I can personally just push instead of inside the script, which I'll show you what I have now. Inside the script, we are pushing to a state with an enum. Okay, this is the base. Okay, but in our player walking, we're doing this change state here. Okay, we're doing player state to running. Okay, I don't like this. I think it sucks. So what I want to do is, instead of doing this, I want to get rid of this enum and basically say my player state like, let's say for instance like this equals state go, bam, and that's it. Which right now it's going to give me an error because this isn't an integer, it's an enum. Which, you know, I mean, I guess, you know, that's the way it goes. But if we change it up to an integer, we can actually make variables that are inspector friendly, that goes, hey, I went from walking state to running. What the heck happened here, right? And we can go in the inspector and it makes it more versatile. Or vice versa. Or instead of doing this in the parent class like this, which I'm already doing it now, is I plan on moving it into this type of functionality, is player values. Because the problem with doing this array of base classes like this is I only have access to the variables of the base class because I'm using inheritance. Okay, which what's a good example? Oh, state walking. See how I got the speed and all this? This is hard-coded into the class. In order for me to change these speeds, I would have to go into the code and change them, which isn't very friendly and it sucks. Even if you serialize them like this, they will not show up. They actually have to be part of the parent class in order for them to show up. Like, the only things that show up is the thing for player values, the controller, and stuff like that. I have the move direction, you know, which, I mean, I guess is okay, but it kind of stinks, right? So that's why I came up with player values, okay? So in the on start, I can always do what did I call player values again? That's another thing that kind of stinks. Peak and player values is called values. Okay, well, that makes sense, right? So I can go speed equals values dot speed, right? Bam. Now you're probably like, well, why don't you just write it into it like that? Well, I don't really want it to write it into the directly in here and require the player values to be here, because I want this to stay modular enough where, let's say hypothetically, I write a different class that's like player crawling something. It's an inherited class, and I can completely change what's in my advanced player. Like, okay, see how I'm making this array? This is how the array is being filled in. Okay, I have to fill it in. Now, there is a way to get around some of this. Okay, player base, if you really wanted to, and this will make it a lot better code, which I'm thinking of going back to, is this idle script. What you do is go into here, go to definition. Instead of the player base being a player base, let's take a look at it again. Player base is not a mono behavior, okay? Which there's pluses and minuses. If you make this not a mono behavior, then when you go into your array, you have to fill it in hard-codedly, like. But if it's actually a mono behavior, you have to attach it to the player, okay? But if it's not a mono and it's like this, then you do not have to attach it to the player. You have to attach it to the advanced player or whatever controller you're using. Okay. Advanced player, let's go back to it. See how I made this? Okay, like this. You don't have to do this, okay? You can actually just make the classes all mono behavior. But it means more scripts are in, on your game object, and you may not want that, or you may want it. It's kind of like which way you want to go with your game. Okay? If you want them to be a pure class that's not a mono, that's just a class, then you would do it this way. If you don't care that it's a mono, then you can go and just attach it to the game object like I had it before, and you have all the mono behaviors, you have your parent, your stuff from your parent. Maybe you want to filter out a lot of the other stuff. Like, okay, my walking thing is completely different from my running. Okay, let's go into my other classes. Okay, I have a jump state. Okay, jumping. Look at this. It's nowhere near on my jump state. I made it so the player cannot move around. I mean, he could turn and stuff like that, but he can't, like, you know how you jump up in the air and, the player can usually stop in mid-air and quit falling or whatever. I always thought that was kind of dumb and kind of ridiculous. So what I done was I come up with my own little thing of this jump class. This is responsible for just setting the direction in the controller, and he does time.time, the delta time stuff, and the move direction. The move direction is the same as it's always been. Now you might see this this class right here, this function, and two, look, here's another one that's the prime example of we could have used the integer and just had it go straight into the array and change the value that we need it to be. But instead, we're doing a like I said, kind of sucks. And let's go over this function, okay? Atom base. This is a class that's responsible for doing animations. Okay, this is a base class, and what I'm doing is it doesn't matter what animation system you're using. This is for the legacy system. I've already started coding it and stuff like that. Okay, but I have another class that has all the same functions that I can call in. This class is going to be responsible for telling the animation system what to do. It's a custom class specifically for the garbage of translating it from one to the next. Okay, if I want the mechanism system, I can use the mechanism system. If I want to use the legacy system, the legacy system. And here's the beauty about it. Does not matter what system the game object uses, it will pass the values exactly the way that I want. Okay? If it uses the legacy system, it'll use it. If it uses the mechanism, it'll use it. It doesn't care what system it is. It's a bridge class. That's basically what it is. It bridges the logic. Now it's kind of hard coded at now, but you know, it's getting there. It's getting there. Okay? So, like I always say, get it in the game, get it working, then refactor it and keep refactoring until you're happy with it. Because, you know, after you find out how you can get it to work and work smoothly, then you can, you know, tweak it around, do a little here and there, you know, and do your thing. It could, I mean, this might actually be something really good. Of course, you could always probably make this a static class and things like that. I mean, you know. But I'm not going to do some weird stuff just to get something to work. That's kind of dumb. Right? And then another thing is, yeah, you'd be like, oh, you can have two different variables and do a little if here and there. I don't want no ifs in here. I want it to go directly into it. I don't want any overhead from checking a condition unless I absolutely have to. That's the reason why there's nothing in there besides what needs to be there. You know, public string, you're doing an anim.play. If you're doing one that's got a bool, then you pass in a bool variable. Okay, and then here's one that's got a float, and vice versa. And like I said, you know, this can all change as well. You know, depending on what your need is for the game. And two, if you're looking at this and you're like, why are you doing this every frame? Well, I did have on controller hit, which is a mono behavior, but guess what? Player base is not a mono behavior. If it was a mono behavior, then it would have made it a whole lot easier. So that's the reason why I'm bridging it over like this. I will be doing a landed animation and things like that. We're gonna have falling damage and all that cool stuff. Just takes time to do it all. You know, like I always say. And this class is about to be changed anyway, because there's only one instance of it. And what I'm thinking about doing is just getting it away from the scriptable object and just passing it around like, well, yeah, I could put this directly into the weapon system, but I look for a refactor to happen again anyway. And I'm going to sit there and tell you why is simple. In our classes for our player, what I've been thinking about is, does this player actually need to have their weapon on them? And the answer is not really. Weapon movement, that just does your weapon movement. Your inputs is just directly into something. The actual player, this script, yeah, okay, I'm cool with it actually having it. Beyond that, like this weapon mover, this just goes and does a hip state, and oh, this is a good example of, remember how this script is? You got a hip state and then you got this. Well, these are mono behaviors, okay? They're attached to game object. These up here are not, okay? So basically, this is not, and this is going off the player base, and I can't change the values for inside certain things. That's why player values exist, okay? But if I did it this way, anytime that I change anything in the hip state, I can change the values right here, okay? I can have it do the hip state, you know, have more variables in here, like, hey, there's floats here, and more stuff here, you know, things like that, okay? Which these are probably going to be changing anyway. Yeah, I'm really serious. Actually, I think I'm lying. Actually, I think we're not going to have this array type object. Yeah, we're gonna do something different probably soon. Yeah. But then it doesn't make it modular enough. See, what I'm thinking about, instead of doing this, we'll have one variable of the current state, okay, to get rid of this enum, alright? And then we just put a variables for here, alright? Instead of having an array of objects, we just have a single variable for each one. But if we do that, it will not allow us to do what needs to be done. It won't let us you know, if I want to go in here and add another state, I've got to go in there and change the class, which kind of sucks. But advanced player can change. It's just a simple class anyway. That's just a container class. So we can have a basic player, an advanced player. Yeah, that might actually be something that I might do instead. See, I change my mind a lot and everything else. That's one reason why sometimes I don't get anything done. But oh, and these right here are responsible for this string right here is responsible for what animation it plays in this state right here. Like this is the idle state. This will be your walk state. This will be your running state. And I don't know what. Oh, that's supposed to be jumping, but I don't have a jump animation. So yeah, that, yeah, we could have basic player and then some other stuff too. Yeah, adding a state to the class wouldn't be hard. I guess. Of course, I could use a Unity event. A Unity event would actually make it really easy to swap states. Because then I can feed the specific object into it, and what it will do is tell it, hey, do this. Oh, this database is filled in by runtime, so you don't have to worry about it. And this other stuff I don't want filled in, all this stuff filled in at runtime. And the reason why is the waste of performance. To get the input, the advanced player and all that, wasted performance, waste. Just go ahead and fill them out. I'd much rather fill them out, make them public or make them private serializable. Just go ahead and fill them out, because if you don't, then why? Like some of these variables, like movements and stuff like that, just fill them out, because it's a waste of performance to go any other way. Like this one, I could have this do a get component of the player base type, but I found it wasted performance. And I can do a integer here that, hey, hip state, if you're pushing the button, you go to sniper state or heavy metal state. But yeah, so that's the changes made so far. I worked out most of the bugs for that, and some of the saving is a lot better, but like I said, it's still prototype stages, so I wanted to show you guys the debugger and things. So I hope you learned something. I know there's not much code and things, but I wanted to explain a lot of things so that you guys can, maybe experiment in your own projects. But take care, guys. Like, hit subscribe. Do your whole YouTube stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care and keep on coding and keep on trucking. Peace, guys.